Today I'm baking up some maple bacon buttermilk biscuits. It's a buttermilk biscuit full of homemade maple brown sugar bacon and smoked Gouda cheese. So we're going to be starting with our maple bacon first because it needs some time in the oven. And I think at the store there's already bacon that has maple syrup and brown sugar, but I couldn't find it, so we're just going to make our own at home. So with our bacon laid out, I'm just going to sprinkle on some brown sugar. And then of course as we're doing this, we want to make sure that we're washing our hands in between everything. And then I have some maple syrup that we're just going to be adding on top. We have our oven set to 400, so now we can put these in. So while the bacon's in the oven, we're going to start working on our biscuit dough. So first I have some flour, some baking powder, baking soda, kosher salt, and then finally some sugar. I'm then going to be taking some cold butter and we're going to be grating it into our flour mixture. And if I need to, I'll coat the butter in the flour mixture just to get an easier grip to continue grating. And so at this point I'm just using my fingertips to get the butter mashed into the flour mixture. And it should look like this. So we're also going to be grating in some cheese, and I was going back and forth about which one I think would go best with this. So I decided on smoked Gouda because I thought it would pair nicely with the bacon. And something I like to do in between making my biscuits is ensure that everything is really cold. So I'm going to be putting this in the freezer while we continue cooking the bacon. So the bacon was in the oven for about 20 minutes. It's super sticky. I'm just going to be chopping it up into some pieces. We had the bowl in the freezer for about 30 minutes, so now I'm just adding the bacon. And I'll just toss it with my hands. And then finally I have some very cold buttermilk. And so when it comes to mixing, I like to start with using a fork and just tossing it all together. And so now I feel good enough to use my hands to get everything mixed together even more. So now I'm flouring my surface. We're going to get this poured on top. But I want to try my best to keep it as rectangular as I can. But we also want to create those layers, and so what I'll do is I'll cut it into 3 pieces. I'll stack it, and then I'll smash it. And so I'll just continue doing that for a couple of times. Alright, so now I'm going to be getting these cut into 8 pieces. And then I always like to show off the layering that we just made. With the biscuits cut out, we're now going to be putting on some heavy cream. And I'm sprinkling on top some maple sugar that I got in Michigan. With our oven set to 400, these can officially get baked. Alright, so these were in the oven for about 28 minutes. They puffed up really nicely. I can see the layering too, which I'm really happy about. But now for the best part, I get to eat one. So I love the crunchy outside, and then it's really nice and soft on the inside. So obviously I wish there was a little bit more bacon, but I do love the pairing of it with the Gouda cheese for sure. These biscuits were super easy to make, so I hope you give them a try. I'll be sure to have the ingredients in the caption and the full recipe in my newsletter soon.